Holy moly guacamole. All right, all right. I understand that Teofimo Lopez is one of the most hated fighters in the sport of boxing. I understand that. Huh? Even though that he is the most accomplished young fighter of this young generation, right? Two-time lineal champion. And I also understand that the hiccup in his career was having a split decision loss in the hands of George Kambosos Jr., right? Yeah, at the end of the day, for how long are we going to hold this split decision loss over Teofimo Lopez's head? Because in all reality, what has George Kambosos done in the last 4 years? What has George Kambosos done after his split decision victory over Teofimo Lopez? I know we understand what Teofimo Lopez have accomplished after the hiccup, right? 5 straight wins. Has beaten Sando Martin, who retired Manny Pacquiao. Mikey Garcia, the full division world champion, right? He beat and became lineal champion and the king of his division once again when he beat Josh Taylor, the undisputed in the 140-pound division, right? So with these victories, you know what I'm saying? He let you know that, you know what? It was a bad night. Now we're not gonna go with the medical and the medical situation that he had, because let's just talk about the landscape of this stuff, right? Because at the end of the day, when we look at champions, in which George Kambosos was a champion when he beat Teofimo Lopez, he has a responsibility. Also a responsibility for the hardcore boxing fans and the fans to hold them accountable just like we hold any other champion, right? We expect something good. We expect something great, right? Since you beat a great fighter, in which some people doesn't like to say that Teofimo Lopez is one of the greatest fighters of this young generation and stuff like that. Hey, he's not even on the pound-for-pound list in the Ring magazine. They snubbed him, right? Teofimo Lopez has to be that great that George Kambosos, to this day, is still capitalizing on big boxing deals. Not only has George Kambosos has done nothing in the past 4 years. Let's be real. Let's be honest. He is a one-hit wonder. He is a one-hit wonder. And for real, I hope that he does get a significant win so he won't be this one-hit wonder. Yeah, at the end of the day, he hasn't done nothing. As a matter of fact, arguably, he probably lost the last 4 fights, right? Not even the last 4 fights. He rarely won rounds in the last 4 fights. Let's not forget, he rarely won any rounds versus Devin "The Dream" Haney in the first fight or in the second fight. Then he fought Maxi Hughes. Everybody in the boxing world believed that that was a robbery. But we also understand the corruption and the politics of the sport of boxing. When you do got a fight lined up, like George Kambosos had a fight lined up going into a Maxi Hughes fight that he was going to be fighting Vasiliy Lomachenko because he just locked in a top-ranked deal, just like he locked in a DAZN Matchroom boxing deal, which he's going to be fighting this weekend versus Nick. I don't know his last name, ladies and gentlemen. His last-minute replacement, right? And he's supposed to be fighting Richardson Hitchens in June. So I could see a bit of politics of corruption going on in this fight, that if it goes the way that it went with Maxi Hughes, they're going to give him the victory, right? It is what it is. It's the politics of the sport of boxing. We can't hide it. Look what happened with the Gervonta Tank Davis and Lamar Roach, right? But for how long is people going to hold this split decision loss over Teofimo Lopez's head? Look at the history of the sport of boxing. We had legendary fighters and great fighters in their time lose a fight that technically they was not supposed to lose, right? Manny Pacquiao lost early in his career. And nobody holds loss over his head, especially after he beat Morales, right? After he got those victories with the draw with Marquez, and say, you know what, this guy is game. We didn't go back and say, no, Manny Pacquiao, you the 8th division world champion, 5-time lineal, 12-time world champion, the ambassador, the senator, the humanitarian, the greatest karaoke singer of them all, the GOAT, Manny Pacquiao. You got to go get them losses that you had early in your career back. What about Amir Khan when he lost to British Prescott, right? And he was the hottest amateur coming out from the Olympics and things of that nature. He had all hype. He lost to Prescott. Whoa, what an upset. But then he got some great wins right after, right? Got some great wins with Berea and stuff like that. Got some wins right after, which people wasn't thinking about the Prescott. We understood as a hardcore boxing fan that that guy was just a one-hit wonder. Look how many losses he has captured throughout the years. We understand that one of the biggest upsets in the sport of boxing was Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas. Yeah, I remember, right? After that, Buster Douglas lost to Evander Holyfield. And then I remember that the talks was a potential fight with Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. People forgot about that because already Buster Douglas lost to Holyfield. People understood, the hardcore boxing people that they got an eye for talent understood that was just a one-hit wonder. It was a bad night. Just like Teofimo Lopez didn't have a special night. But I got to also end this narrative because y'all know the narrative that, you know, in the history of the sport of boxing, right? It always been the guy that wins the championship rounds really won the fight. If you were champion and you were a challenger, we'd be like, yo, you got to take it from the champion, right? You got to take it from the champion. And as much that they're going to replay the first knockdown in the first round that George Kambosos, you know, landed on Teofimo Lopez, why they don't play the championship rounds knockdown that Teofimo Lopez delivered on George Kambosos? See, the first round, that was a flash knockdown. But George Kambosos was actually hurt by the champion in the championship rounds. But because of the hate of Teofimo Lopez, that narrative goes out the window. That you got to win the championship rounds to you got to take it from the champion to beat the champion. You got whoever wins the championship rounds in a close fight is the winner, right? Well, Teofimo Lopez came back in the championship rounds and knocked down George Kambosos. But because it's Teofimo Lopez, y'all don't want to run with the same narrative there. I've been running with the same for the history of the sport of boxing all this time. The boxing world has given George Kambosos a pass because they hate Teofimo Lopez that much. He's capitalizing off these deals. And look, props to his business representation and stuff like that, because still capitalizing off this deal. They still living off that split decision victory. It'd actually be stupid for George Kambosos to even give Teofimo Lopez a rematch, even though that Teofimo Lopez did give him a contract this time around before him signing the Matchroom deal, and which George Kambosos declined to sign to fight Teofimo Lopez in a rematch. But I understand why. Because why would I give Teofimo Lopez a rematch? He knocks me out like Roberto Duran knocks De Jesus out, right? When De Jesus beat Roberto Duran in the lightweight division. If George Kambosos would have gave Teofimo Lopez a rematch and then Teofimo Lopez would have knocked him out in the rematch, then George Kambosos wouldn't be talked about or capitalizing off these deals. Just like Buster Douglas wasn't capitalizing off nothing deals after the Evander Holyfield loss. For how long you're going to hold? Teofimo Lopez got to be great. That great that you guys try to deny that he's not that great. But for George Kambosos to be capitalizing off these deals and fights, damn, this victory that George Kambosos had over Teofimo Lopez is probably one of the most credible and biggest victory of our time. Nobody has capitalized quite like George Kambosos. It don't matter what Teofimo Lopez has earned. It still was, yo, Tio, what about the George Kambosos? No, at this point, it's what about George Kambosos? Are we celebrating a one-hit wonder? I know we don't celebrate a one-hit wonder. Or are we just going to start celebrating a one-hit wonder because the boxing world doesn't like Teofimo Lopez antics or what comes out his mouth and things of that nature? Yet, in the end of the day, you ain't even bet on George Kambosos on a rematch with Teofimo Lopez. Let's be real. Let's be honest. It's not taking nothing away from George Kambosos, because if you look at if you was following the channel, I said that this fight was going to be harder than the Vasiliy Lomachenko fight for Teofimo Lopez. I said that because I said that George Kambosos, I was doing the live commentary to the Lee Selby fight. We seen the Mickey Bay fight, because think about it, the Mickey Bay fight was in the undercard of when Teofimo Lopez became a champion in Madison Square Garden. So we understood, and we also understood that George Kambosos been training with Manny Pacquiao. And I said that in the breakdown leading up to their fight, that George Kambosos is good. Everybody thought that George Kambosos was going to get knocked out. I had George Kambosos on the show even a year before he even fought Teofimo Lopez, before he was in position to fight for the world title. So I knew that he was going to be good. I knew he was going to be ready. Yeah, at the end of the day, what has George Kambosos done? He talk a good game, but that's just the confidence that the boxing world gives him, because they giving him a pass because they rather hate Tio than hold George Kambosos accountable on what you have done for me lately. Are we going to sing the Janet Jackson song? What have you done for me lately? Dun, 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 dun. Ooh, yeah. I just want, for real, for George Kambosos to get a good victory so he won't be labeled as a one-hit wonder. And I said this right after the fight because I already knew the situation with Teofimo Lopez health-wise heading into the fight. And I even said, yo, Teofimo Lopez, this was the best fight because the condition that he was in and still managed to pull the knockdown, the fight, how he fought, how he finished, right? Showed me a lot of what this man is capable of doing, right? George Kambosos is always in precision, just like he is now. Another title elimination, even though that he got knocked out by Vasiliy Lomachenko, he moves up to the 140-pound division and right again. Politically, he's back in precision because of the split decision victory over Teofimo Lopez. I just want you to understand, whether you like him or not, Teofimo Lopez is one of the greatest fighters of this young generation that already have a Hall of Fame resume. This win for George Kambosos was bigger than any other win of probably this generation. Because look where he's at today. And that's all because he got a split decision over the great Teofimo Lopez. If Teofimo Lopez wouldn't be that great, then George Kambosos still wouldn't be capitalizing off these deals. So let me know what y'all think, man. Are you going to keep on hanging this George Kambosos split decision victory over Teofimo Lopez head, regardless of what he's done? Because like I said again, if Teofimo Lopez didn't beat Josh Taylor and is still finding his way after the George Kambosos split decision loss, then I would understand. But at least Teofimo Lopez been winning and George Kambosos been losing. I don't even think the rematch is even worth it because George Kambosos has done nothing. Now, I'm going to say it like this. If it would have aged, you know what I'm saying? If George Kambosos would have beaten Devin Haney or would have beaten Vasiliy Lomachenko, let's say, okay, lose to Devin Haney but beat Vasiliy Lomachenko, then I will understand. Like, okay, you still got to hold this over his head. But George has done nothing. Y'all been giving him a pass. He's the one-hit wonder. He's the Buster Douglas of this generation. He's the British Prescott of this generation. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know, man. Subscribe to the channel. This is Punch Run Boxing, a.k.a. Mr. Moonshine himself. Let me know what y'all think. Leave it in the comment section. Love you. God bless. And on to the next.